Every story has a turning point, a moment when everything changes. The turning point.
It started the way these things always do, with a phone call at night and a voice that's barely holding it together. Jess was crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just broken. She said, "He kicked me out. I don't have anywhere to go." We hadn't talked every day, but we were close once. College roommates. Maid of honor at my wedding. She'd moved across the city years ago and we kind of drifted like people do. But I still cared about her. I remembered the girl who used to dance in the kitchen barefoot, who made the worst margaritas and swore they were refreshingly terrible. And now she was crying, alone, on the sidewalk. She said she'd just take a hotel, sleep in her car if she had to, that her ex was already posting photos with someone new. I didn't even think twice. "Come here," I told her. "Stay with us for a bit, as long as you need." It was my house, technically, left to me by my parents after they passed. Mike, my husband, moved in after we got married. We'd built a life here. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. Mike was surprised when I told him Jess would be staying, but he didn't object, just raised an eyebrow and said, "She's going through a lot, huh?" Then offered to help clear out the guest room. The first few days were fine. Jess was quiet, helpful, overly apologetic about everything. She offered to cook, clean dishes without being asked, even folded laundry that wasn't hers, almost like she was trying to repay something no one was charging her for. I told her to relax. "You're not a guest. This is your home for now." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Mike treated her kindly, respectfully. He was never inappropriate. Sometimes they'd talk in the kitchen if I was out running errands, laugh over something stupid on TV, or reminisce about the time we all went camping back in 2015. And honestly, I was glad they were getting along. She needed comfort. He was just being decent. At least, that's what I told myself. She had no one, and I couldn't let her sleep in her car. At first, I didn't notice the change. Jess was just more upbeat, less fragile. The first few days, she moved like a shadow, quiet, withdrawn. But now, barely a week in, she was humming in the kitchen, singing to herself while unloading the dishwasher, wearing tight yoga pants and tank tops that clung to her in ways I never remembered before. And Mike, he didn't say anything inappropriate, but he noticed. He started lingering in the kitchen when she cooked. Once, I walked in and they were laughing. I asked what was so funny, and they both went quiet. "Just a meme she showed me," Mike said. But Jess didn't have her phone out. I chalked it up to stress. Jess was rebuilding. Maybe this new energy was her coping mechanism. But the more I looked, the more it started to feel off. She had money now. Not a lot, but enough to buy a new handbag. Expensive, designer, and the matching shoes that arrived 2 days later. She said it was a refund from an old wedding venue deposit. I nodded, smiled, but I knew the deposit had been used years ago. There was no refund coming. Then there was the coffee mug. I came downstairs early one morning and found 2 mugs on the table, still warm. Mike usually left at 7 a.m., but this was 6:15. One mug had lipstick on it. My mug. Jess wasn't in the kitchen. Mike was in the shower. And the guest room door? Wide open, bed made. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. Another night I heard whispering. It was around 1 a.m. I'd gotten up for water and passed the hallway bathroom. The door was cracked just slightly, and I could hear Jess's voice. Low, soft, intimate. I paused. Not because I wanted to listen, but because it was different. There was laughter, a breathless giggle, a "you shouldn't say that," in a tone I'd never heard from her before. Then silence. I knocked gently. A second later, water turned on, clearly staged. She opened the door, looking surprised. "Hey," she whispered, eyes wide. "Sorry, I was just talking to my mom. She always calls late." but I could still see the screen of her phone behind her. It was black. Call ended. There wasn't even a name showing in the recents when I checked the next morning while grabbing something from the table. Mike, meanwhile, had become distant. Not angry, just flat, muted. He stopped hugging me when he came home, stopped asking about my day. And when we did talk, it felt like I was boring him. One night, as we sat on the couch, I leaned into him. He flinched. "What's wrong with you?" I asked, trying to sound light. He sighed, didn't look at me. "Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired lately." Jess passed behind the couch at that moment. He looked at her, just for a second. But it was the kind of second you remember. Then came the wardrobe change. She'd started wearing a silk robe in the mornings, one I didn't recognize. It wasn't hers. It wasn't mine either. It was familiar, though. I could have sworn I saw it once in a photo of me and Mike from one of our getaways. It had been packed away, I thought, in the attic, but I checked, and the box was open. When I asked her where she got it, she just smiled. "Oh, it was in the guest closet. I figured it was okay." I began questioning myself. Was I being jealous? Controlling? Jess had just gone through hell. Mike was just being nice. I kept trying to tell myself that. But when your own husband forgets to kiss you goodbye, and your best friend starts looking better and better every day, you feel it. You feel it in your chest, like a tiny, hollow warning. A shift. The final straw was a sound, a small, intimate sound. I had gone to bed early. Headache, stress, whatever. I heard footsteps outside our bedroom at midnight. Then laughter. Software faint. From the living room. I got up, slowly, quietly, and I saw them through the crack of the hallway. Not touching, not kissing, just close. He was sitting. She was standing. They were whispering. He touched her wrist. And then she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. Not since he used to smile like that at me. I didn't know what they were. Not yet. But something had already changed. And deep down, I think they knew I'd felt it. It didn't happen overnight. It was slow, subtle, like someone tilting the floor beneath your feet. Just a few degrees at first, until you start tripping over things you used to walk across without thinking. Mike started snapping. Not screaming, just cold remarks, quick shutdowns. One morning, I asked if he could pick up milk on his way home. "Why don't you do it? You're the one who always complains we don't have things." Then he walked out the door. I stood there holding my coffee, wondering if I'd actually said something wrong. I even checked our texts. Maybe I sounded irritated? I didn't. Jess noticed it too. Or at least, she acted like she did. One afternoon, I was venting to her in the kitchen, just trying to figure out why Mike seemed so off lately. She put her hand on mine and said, with that tilted head sympathy, "Claire, I love you, but maybe you're just projecting a little. You've been so stressed." She followed it up with a laugh to make it sound playful, but it didn't feel playful. It felt like I was being diagnosed. Then came the misplaced things. My keys, my phone charger, my work notebook, gone. Then reappearing exactly where I swore I left them. Jess would joke about it. "Girl, you're getting scatterbrained. You sure you're okay?" Once, I told her flat out that I'd had that charger in my purse. She blinked and said, "Maybe Mike borrowed it?" He hadn't. He didn't even use that brand. Still, I felt ridiculous arguing over a charger. The worst part was, I started questioning myself. I'd wake up anxious, walk through my own house like a guest. Mike barely touched me. Jess was everywhere. In the kitchen, in the living room, on the patio with him in the evenings while I washed the dishes alone. She'd leave half-finished wine glasses on the counter, lipstick stains, a whiff of her perfume in the hallway, like she wanted me to notice. One night, I finally asked Mike, "What's going on between you two?" He scoffed. "Are you serious?" I nodded. Claire, that's insane. She's your friend. She's been through hell, and you're accusing her of what, seducing me? Jesus, you sound paranoid. I tried to explain about the robe, the late night talks, the body language, the feeling. He just shook his head. You need to talk to someone, honestly. That night I cried in the bathroom. Not because he might be cheating, but because I no longer trusted my own brain. The next few days were a blur. Jess became overly kind again, making breakfast, asking if I'd been sleeping enough, saying I looked pale and tired. She started texting me motivational quotes. Self-care is not selfish. It's okay to ask for help. Then Mike said it. He came home early, unusually calm, and sat me down like I was a child. I talked to your sister, he said. She said you're welcome to visit for a while. Just take a break, get some rest. It might be good for you, for all of us. I stared at him. You want me to leave my own house? He smiled, that fake managerial smile he used in work meetings. Number, I just think space might help. Think of it as a reset. Jess stood in the doorway behind him. Quiet. She didn't say anything. But she didn't look surprised either. That's when I realized I wasn't just losing control. I was being carefully, systematically pushed out of my marriage, of my mind, of my home. I found it by accident. I was printing out a return label for a package, and the printer jammed. When I opened the tray, 2 pages came out. One was mine, the other wasn't. No envelope, no staples, just a draft, a letter. It looked official. Legal header. I almost tossed it aside until I saw my name, Claire W. Martin, and the phrase, petition to restrict property rights due to mental instability. I stopped breathing. It was from a lawyer, a real law firm downtown. The letter was addressed to a judge, requesting an emergency evaluation of my capacity to manage inherited property, namely, the house I was living in. The petition claimed that I had become increasingly unstable, erratic, prone to paranoid delusions and emotional volatility, and that my behavior posed a threat to cohabiting individuals. Cohabiting individuals, meaning Mike and Jess. At the bottom of the document, the initiator was clear. Filed on behalf of Michael T. Martin's spouse and joint occupant. There was a list of attachments, statements, medical concerns, behavioral logs. Among them, witness statement, Jessica M. Halley, non-family observer. On premises, I stood there staring at the page, frozen. This wasn't a divorce filing. It wasn't a financial request. It was a carefully built case to legally disqualify me from making decisions about my own house. Her witness statement, from what I read, painted me like a ticking bomb. She claimed I talked to myself at night, that I wandered the hallway in confusion, left the stove on more than once, and had thrown objects during mood swings, that I was increasingly withdrawn, suspicious, and aggressive. All of it was a lie. All of it sounded believable. And that was the worst part. They were playing the long game. All the gaslighting, the misplaced keys, the whispered jokes about my memory. It all had a purpose. They weren't just cheating. They were collecting evidence, crafting a narrative, so that when I finally did break down, and I would, they were counting on it. They'd already have their story in place. The legal goal? To have me temporarily removed from decision-making authority, which meant I'd lose control over the house, the one thing that was fully legally mine. Once that happened, Mike could claim hardship, force a sale, and split the profits. He wasn't just planning to leave me. He was planning to take everything with him. And Jess? She didn't need to be on paper. She just had to play her part. The sweet friend, the neutral witness, the concerned observer. She was the scalpel. He was the hand holding it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I read the entire letter twice, calmly, standing in my own home, holding a piece of paper that meant they were trying to take it away from me. And as I stood there, something in me snapped, not in the way they wanted, not broken, clear, sharp. That night, I didn't say a word. I made dinner. I laughed at Mike's joke about Jess's cooking. I even asked Jess if she wanted to borrow one of my sweaters. She did. It was the yellow one my mother gave me. I watched her put it on. She looked smug, victorious. They thought I had no idea. They thought they were winning. He wasn't just cheating, he was building a case against me, using her. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd admit it. I wasn't expecting an apology, but I hoped deep down for at least some acknowledgement, some tiny crack in the mask. I waited until after dinner. Jess had made pasta. Mike poured wine. We ate like a family. I cleared the dishes. Then I asked them to sit down. They looked at each other. Mike leaned back, arms folded. Jess crossed her legs like she was bracing for a performance review. I pulled out the letter, the draft from the printer, set it on the table, and said simply, "What is this?" Jess froze. Mike's expression didn't change. He looked at the letter, then at me. "Where did you get that?" "The printer. You left it there." Long silence. Jess blinked rapidly. Mike sighed. "It's a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" My voice stayed calm. "It's a petition to legally strip me of my rights to this house, with your name on it, and hers." I turned to Jess. She burst into tears. "I can't believe you think I would do something like this," she said, wiping her face dramatically. "Claire, I moved in here because I had nowhere else to go. You've been so kind to me, and now you're accusing me of what? Trying to steal your life?" Her voice cracked just right. Her hands shook just enough. It was performance art. Mike put a hand on her back and turned to me. "Claire, this isn't healthy. You're spiraling. You're seeing things that aren't there. You're jumping to conclusions. That draft was never supposed to be filed. I was just exploring options because you've seemed unstable lately." I blinked. "Unstable? You've been forgetful, emotional, aggressive." Jess nodded through her tears. "I told him not to do it, Claire. I said you just needed rest. I was trying to help you." I could hardly breathe. They were playing this together, like a well-rehearsed scene. I looked down at the table. My knuckles had turned white. "You're trying to gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy, so I'll leave and you can take this house." Mike exhaled slowly, like I was a stubborn child. "No one is trying to take anything from you. We love you. But you're not well right now, and we're worried." He smiled. He actually smiled. And then came the final blow. "Your sister already said she'd take you for a few weeks, just until things settle. Maybe talk to someone, get some clarity." I stood up. My chair scraped hard against the floor. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at them, the man I married and the friend I trusted, and saw two strangers, two actors. Jess sniffled and whispered, "Please don't make this harder than it already is." I went upstairs, closed the door, and locked it. My heart was pounding. My hands were ice. I sat on the floor and stared at nothing for a long time. They weren't just gaslighting me. They were documenting it. Every reaction, every emotional spike as a part of the record. The next move I realized was mine. They wanted me to scream, to break, to be the woman they were trying to prove I already was. But I wouldn't. I'd do what they never expected. Stay calm, stay quiet, and start fighting back. The next morning, I played along. I smiled, said good morning like nothing had happened. Mike asked if I wanted coffee. Jess offered to drive me to the spa. "You need a little self-care," she said sweetly. I nodded. "Maybe tomorrow." Inside, I was on fire. They thought I'd broken, that I was too tired, too confused to resist. But they were wrong. I ordered a recorder online, Small, discreet, voice activated, same day delivery. While Jess was in the shower and Mike was mowing the lawn, I slid it behind the bookshelf in the living room, angled toward the couch where they usually sat whispering when they thought I was asleep. Then I waited. That night, I pretended to go to bed early. Headache again. No one questioned it. At midnight, I slipped downstairs barefoot. The house was quiet. I retrieved the recorder and brought it up to my room. Locked the door. Hands trembling, I pressed play. For the first few minutes, there was only silence. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards. Then, voices. Jess, she's folding fast. I think we're close. Mike, don't rush it. If she flips out too soon, it'll look suspicious. Let her crash slowly. Jess, how much longer do we have to tiptoe around her? Mike laughed. Not long. The lawyer said if she voluntarily leaves, even for a week, and we can argue abandonment. That speeds everything up. Jess, so we keep pushing. Mike, yeah, little things. Keep her off balance. You're doing great, by the way. Jess, you owe me a beach house after this. Mike, you'll get more than that. My mouth went dry. They weren't just trying to make me leave. They were baiting me into breaking, so they could make it official. So the court would side with them, and they'd take everything. Jess again. Do you think she suspects anything? Mike, she's too far gone. She doesn't even know what day it is half the time. Jess, still, she's quiet lately? Too quiet? Mike, that's because she's tired. She's unraveling. We'll have the paperwork ready by Friday. I stopped the recording, sat in the dark, my pulse in my ears, my hands clenched. It was all there. Their voices, their plan, the timeline. Not suspicion, not paranoia. Proof. The next day, I drove to the bank. I opened a private safety deposit box, put the recorder inside. Then I called a friend, an old classmate who became an attorney. Told her I needed to meet, urgently, privately. She didn't ask questions. I didn't offer answers. That night, Jess left a post-it on my mirror. Hope you're feeling better. Just wanted you to know I care. I smiled, then flushed it down the toilet. The next morning, I got dressed like it was any other day. Light makeup, casual sweater. Calm smile. Mike was already gone. Jess was in the backyard, watering plants she hadn't planted. I made coffee, sat at the table, waited. When she came in, I handed her a mug. You were right, I said. She blinked. About what? Everything. I haven't been myself. I think I do need a break. She smiled, wide. Oh, Claire, that's such a healthy decision. She hugged me. I hugged her back. And in my mind, I whispered, you just made your last mistake. That afternoon, I met with my attorney. I played the recording. She didn't interrupt once. When it ended, she looked at me and said, you understand what this is, right? I nodded. This is conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted property theft, manipulation, possibly even emotional abuse under state law. I smiled. She made a few phone calls. 2 days later, we had a plan. We contacted a police officer my family had known for years. He'd helped my father during a property dispute in the past. An honest man. He listened. He took notes. He asked to keep a copy of the recording. Then he asked me the most important question. Do you want to press charges? Or just end this quietly? I thought about it. The house, the lies, the betrayal, the gaslighting. I want them out, I said. And I want it legal. He nodded. Friday morning came like any other. Jess was in the kitchen making smoothies. Mike was in the shower. At 9:02 a.m., 2 officers arrived at the front door. They were polite, professional. They had a copy of the deed, a notarized letter from the attorney, and a printed transcript of the recording. Jess turned white. Mike came downstairs in a towel and froze when he saw them. The officer looked at him calmly and said, Sir, we're here regarding a civil property dispute. You'll need to gather your personal items and vacate the premises within the next 30 minutes. Mike turned to me. What the hell is this? I handed him a sealed envelope. My attorney's contact information and your copy of the audio file. Jess started crying. Claire, I didn't mean to. I cut her off. Save it. I'll be changing the locks this afternoon. They packed fast. Angry. Panicked. Jess dropped a box of makeup. Didn't bother picking it up. Mike tried to say something as he walked out. I closed the door before he could. I stood in silence, then locked it behind me. Slowly. Carefully. That night, I ordered pizza. Put on a movie. Sat on my couch. Alone. In my house. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just existed. Peacefully. They thought they'd buried me under lies, but I learned to breathe in the dark and rise when no one thought I could. It's strange how quiet a house can be after war. No slammed doors, no footsteps creeping past your bedroom, no whispered strategy meetings between your husband and your best friend, just stillness and the sound of your own breathing. The first night alone, I walked through every room like it was new, touched the walls, smelled the air, opened the windows. I found her perfume in the bathroom drawer, tossed it in the trash, found his tie on the back of a chair, fed it through the shredder. They'd both left more behind than they realized, little pieces of themselves stuck to corners of my life. But I cleaned and kept cleaning until it was just me. The house felt different now, lighter, brighter, mine again. I sat on the porch that Sunday morning, wrapped in my mother's blanket, watching the sky shift from pink to gold. A neighbor walked by with her dog. She waved. Haven't seen Mike or Jess around lately. I smiled. They moved on. A week later, a letter came in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No greeting, just, I'm sorry, he left me too. Jess? No explanation, no defense, just that. I folded the letter neatly and burned it in the fireplace. No rage, no vindication, just ash. Later that evening, I opened the drawer in the hallway, the one where the letter from the lawyer had fallen, the one that changed everything. I pulled out a pen and paper, started writing. Not a journal, not a memoir, a list. Yeah, what I will never ignore again. The way someone looks at me when they think I'm not watching. The silence that replaces laughter. The friend who never truly celebrates your wins. The voice inside me, even when it whispers. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not scared. I'm not broken. They thought I was weak. They thought I was naive. They thought they could steal everything and walk away smiling. But they forgot one thing. I grew up in this house. It has my father's hands in the beams, my mother's scent in the linen, my name on the deed, and my spine in its foundation. They came to take what wasn't theirs, but now, when they think of me, they remember the day I made them leave empty-handed.
If this story moved you, there's more to come. Subscribe and don't miss the next turning point.